From the Daily Mail, we have breaking news. Ivanka Trump blamed a fart on her classmate when she was a bratty teenager. And creepy Donald commented on her friend's weight, former best friend claims. Folks, why is this in a mainstream UK paper? We have a problem. We have a vast, horrible problem all throughout the world, the Western world, very specifically, and the United States, with trash, absolute trash, coming out of media outlets. This here is a quote from Joseph Goebbels. Think of the press as a great keyboard on which the government can play. Now, who was Goebbels? Well, he was the head propagandist of the Nazis. That is the guy who essentially helped brainwash a nation. Here's a quote. It says, "He who controls the medium controls the message, and he who controls the message controls the masses." It says, Goebbels, more affectionately known as Poisendorf, was the master propagandist and cult dictator of the Nazi regime for 12 years. While not a physically impressive man, only standing a little over 5 foot tall and having a crippled foot, his intellect and wit enabled him to solely create the Führer myth and embed the Nazi ideal into millions of German people. His propaganda campaigns were incredibly thorough, as they bombarded the German people through the press, radio, film, publications, literature, theater, music, fine arts. It was total immersion, and today is no different. So, before we get into this, I'd like to welcome you all. This is AllMinucOne. My name is Bill. If you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe, and help me grow, guys, because look, what I'm about to talk about today is specifically that the media is trash. It has become a trash outlet that is essentially the propagandistic voice of the government, and not just one faction or another faction of the government, but the deep state, if you would, the government that perpetuates itself forever, the government that lies to you constantly and has forever. We have a serious crisis in this nation today with divided factions, and unfortunately, one of those factions is the progressive left-wingers, the regressive left-wingers, if you would, the people that want revolution and big government, and they are in both parties in the United States, and they have infiltrated all of the media. Now, this is nothing I haven't said before. Other people haven't, or other people, that is, have brought up for sure. We talk about it constantly because there is a reality to it. There is a truth about it. And all I have to do is show you just a few headlines and a few articles. Why are we talking about Ivanka Trump's farts from when she was a 15-year-old? She's like a 40-year-old woman now. What are we talking about? We're talking about something when she was a kid? I read the highlights of the article before I brought it up, and it basically said, oh yeah, this girl who was her best friend forever until, I don't know, recently, was talking about how Donald would make remarks about her losing weight, and I guess Don Jr. ate a half of her grilled cheese once, and Big Don said, oh, yeah, you ought to thank him for that. What a horrible person. That's not news, folks. That is gossip, and it really has no place in a major publication. But it is how that goes. So here we have a story from the Daily Caller, a little bit more of a reputable source, although they are right-leaning. And it says, Romney says Trump's lame duck period is more dangerous than his transition process. Why would Mitt Romney say something like that? Perhaps it's because Donald Trump first off, isn't in a necessarily a lame duck period. Let's understand that. But perhaps it's because he is trying to pull our troops out of Afghanistan. He is trying to get the Pentagon and the FBI and all those deep state organizations straightened out with people who will run things constitutionally and in the spirit of America and not perpetuate these wars. We know that certain people who were military advisors lied to Trump about the troops that they were. There were only 200 troops in Afghanistan, and there were far more. And he was quite upset about it. Or not Afghanistan, sorry, Syria. And I would be quite upset about it. In fact, I am upset about it as just an American. And seeing that Donald Trump wanted to bring us out of this global world building union that's going on in the West and with China and with the UN, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, all of these globalist organizations. He's trying to get America back into sovereignty. And people say that he does nothing but break laws, which I've yet to see evidence of, because if he broke any laws, he would have been prosecuted. Joe Biden himself has said, I'm not going after Donald Trump. And then the people on the Young Turks were quite upset about that. He said, when I get in office, I won't go after Donald Trump. I'm not going to have any investigations. I'll tell you why he's not. Because there's nothing to investigate. If there was something to find, they would have found it already. They poisoned his presidency. And I didn't vote for either Obama or Romney during that election because Romney is a scumbag neocon who wants to sell you out. He wants to sell America out to the globalists. This is what he is. Over here we have House Democrats block latest Republican effort to pass a stimulus bill. Apparently, this is the 40th time. It says right here. The 40th time. Why? People are hurting. Biden is talking about if he wins the election, which he is not, despite what the media says. Biden is talking about locking everyone down again. When will the stimulus come? You know why things haven't happened before, at least on the Republican side? Because a lot of the things that were part of the bailouts that were coming had Green New Deal stuff in them. And other things like things pertaining to the election, last minute changes, federal laws, whatever. Now, did the Republicans do the best job in the past with the stuff they had in the bill and the only stimulus we've gotten since this entire COVID nonsense? No, they gave a bunch of corporate bailouts. And what we're seeing now is the transfer of wealth to these corporate, these large corporate organizations, these large, basically corporate oligarchies with lobbyists. And we're seeing how they are getting all of the wealth from the people by force while mom and pop shops get shut down left and right. Restaurants go under. And nobody seems to care. Now, there are some, I'm sure, that care within our government, but does not seem to be that important. Here we have from Vox.com a quote from President Obama. Now, you have a situation in which large swaths of the country genuinely believe that the Democratic Party is a front for a pedophile ring. He's talking about the people that believe in QAnon. QAnon's a LARP, folks. I've mentioned it before. I've said it before. I follow some people, like Quite Frankly, the show Quite Frankly, which is quite entertaining. I like conspiracy stuff. I think it's fun. But whether it's true or not is a whole other thing. QAnon is not true. QAnon is a LARP. It's someone online feeding people information and people think it's real. Now, having interacted with people that believe QAnon is real, I have not yet heard any of them say that the whole Democrat Party is a bunch of pedophiles. What they have said is there's a lot of pedophilia amongst the elites. And most of these people understand exactly what I'm talking about, that there is a true deep state. There is essentially one-party system. We can call them the Republicrats, right? The rhinos and the dinos. Republican in name only and Democrat in name only. The neo-libs and the neocons. Are there other factions? Are there other people within the federal government? Of course. But no matter what, the people who run the institutions, who have the true power, they're only about perpetuating their power. He says, I was talking to a volunteer who was going door to door in Philadelphia in low income African American communities and was getting questions about QAnon conspiracy theories. Yeah. You know why? Because people see how screwed up the government is, and our media runs stuff like this. Now, again, Daily Mail is a UK outlet, so can't quite chide them too much. They can run whatever they want. But, they also have articles like this. It's hard to fathom how Donald thinks. This is Biden quote. Biden calls Trump plan to pry away Michigan electors' college votes illegal and says we must know he has lost. Well, why wouldn't you question the election results? Why wouldn't you want them? If you won fair and square, Mr. Biden, why wouldn't you want them to be validated? Why wouldn't you want to say, here is the proof that I won, and not only did I win, but I had the most historic votes of anyone ever running for president. I even beat Hillary and Barack Obama in certain counties by large margin. Of course, only in swing states, and But why wouldn't you? Because it's all malarkey. It's malarkey. You didn't win. That the media is trying to gaslight the public over this. The Michigan electoral votes cannot be illegally taken away. That is a matter of lawfare going on right now. Lawfare, folks. There are processes in court. We are still in the middle of our constitutional process. Just because people concede in the past doesn't mean that they've ever had to. They do it normally because they're the same party. They're the same interests. It's why you see Mitch McConnell give that little fist bump to Kamala Harris. Why hasn't Kamala Harris resigned from the Senate yet? If they won, December 14th, that is the day. We won't know until then. Not unless these suits go away. And I honestly think most of these lawsuits are meant to get something trumped up to go to the Supreme Court, or to just have these shipped to the delegations. Why would they ship it to the state delegations? Well, I'll tell you why. That is so the vote will be fair, because there are so many votes that are simply irregular. The media keeps saying there's no evidence. Let's get back here to Obama real quick. So he says, I think it is the single biggest threat to our democracy. And here it is, this guy, interviewer Goldberg, is this a new malevolent information architecture bending the moral arc away from justice? And what he really says, I think, is here. He says, I don't hold the tech companies entirely responsible because this predates social media. Yeah, it's called information, dude. It's why the printing press was such a powerful thing. It was already there, but social media has turbocharged it. And I know most of these folks. I've talked to them about it. The degree to which these companies are insisting that they are more like a phone company than they are like the Atlantic, I do not think this is tenable. Why not? Because you give people choice. That's why. That's why you're talking this way. They are making editorial choices, whether they've buried them in algorithms or not. The First Amendment does not require private companies to provide a platform for any view that is out there. It's really interesting from the guy that locked up journalists and went after them through the IRS. Obama does not care about democracy, only cared about power. And by the way, he was never an autonomous president. He's a puppet president, like 90% of our presidents are or have been in the past 60 years. Obama says, if we do not have the capacity to distinguish from what is true from what is false, then by definition, the marketplace of ideas doesn't work. No, that is the marketplace of ideas, that you have to distinguish it for yourself. You want an open and free market, not a controlled market. That's how you get propaganda. He says, then, by definition, the marketplace of ideas doesn't work, and by definition, our democracy doesn't work. We are entering into an epistemological crisis. Nice big word there, Obama, but not really buying it. And the title here is "The Internet is the single biggest threat to our democracy." What a load of crap. This is the Internet, folks. Voter irregularities. The great exaggeration myth of voter fraud in 2020 election. The dead voter conspiracy theory peddled by Trump voters debunked. Not debunked. Not debunked at all yet. No. Trump campaign lawyers claim mass voter fraud across country. Oh, there's one. One that is not a biased presentation. The Times called officials in every state no evidence of voter fraud, intimidation, irregularities, or voter problems, except for all the video footage we have of exactly that. We have federal prosecutors push back on Barr memo on voter fraud. Okay, that was 6 days ago. Barr wouldn't have gotten involved, folks. I'm more than certain if there wasn't something to look into. Heritage, I've covered this before in the past. They actually have a whole list of voter frauds that have been prosecuted in the past. Just because there isn't prosecution, though, it's like saying, oh, we don't prosecute pedophiles, therefore there is no pedophilia, right? It's not true. Like, you can't say that something doesn't exist because you don't prosecute something. Or, as the example I used before, just because we can't find the murderers in Chicago doesn't mean the murders didn't happen. So here we have the myth of voter fraud. So this is a little bit better. The second district judge declined to enjoin certification of a close election after it had been discovered that hundreds of votes were given ballots for a different, whatever that is. Oh, White House has something on this about voter fraud. But look, man, if I type that in, this is Google, right? Voter irregularities. Let's go to view all. So, Washington Post debunked. Oh, I wonder why that is. Times calls official in every state. No evidence of fraud. Okay. Top prosecutor quits after Barr election fraud order. Ooh. Justice Department's election crimes chief resigns after Barr. Yeah, same story. Graham says judicial community will probe all credible allegations of voter irregularities. Well, that's Fox News. So they're going to give you some more conservative folks a little nibble of something, even though they're going to tell you that Biden's the president and he's not. The election has not been certified. There is a process. When Obama is saying something like the internet is the biggest threat to our democracy, what he really means, let me decode this for you. What he really means is your ability to get information and to think is a threat to our power. That's what he means. This little thing, it's hard to fathom how Donald thinks. No, it's not hard to fathom. He thinks that you cheated, whether you did it directly or people did it for you. That's what he thinks. It's not hard to figure that out. And he knows that the election isn't certified, and therefore this is a matter of lawfare. It's a matter of going to the delegates. It's a matter of perhaps the Supreme Court. It's a matter of the election being certified on the 14th when the date comes. And we're getting down to the wire, guys. We're getting close, We're talking less than 30 days away. And, my predictions for this originally were exactly, my predictions originally were that Trump would win. And perhaps he would also get the popular vote, which I was hoping he would. He probably has the popular vote with all the irregularities that they are finding. But mainstream news won't tell you that. They lack evidence. Backstory. We investigated claims of voter fraud in the election. Here's what we found. Okay. USA Today is actually generally moderate. They will lean left because all these places do. But whatever. Here's another Goebbels quote. If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it. And you will even come to believe it yourself. Like President-elect, the office of President-elect, Joseph Biden. Never happened, folks. He never won the election. We still don't have votes in. We are finding discrepancy after discrepancy after discrepancy. And that brings me to this. Matt Brainerd. He is the executive director of the Look Ahead America, former data chief and strategist for Trump. And what do we have down here? Well, we have a little video. I'm going to play that here in a second. But we have this. We have infrequent voters in precincts with high turnout. State says they voted early or absentee, but told us they did not cast a ballot. That means they went to interview these folks and their ballot was not cast. And let's just go to show this thread. And these are some percentages. No, we have audio recordings of all of these calls. We also have affidavits all over the place with people claiming that they saw impropriety and all kinds of stuff. These are people putting their butts on the line. Now, do people do that? Yes. In the numbers that we are seeing, do people generally do that? No. We saw this with, let's say, Julie Swetnick during the whole Kavanaugh thing where she claimed, made up an entire story about how Kavanaugh did something to her and testified. And when you put something in an affidavit, you are under penalty of perjury. So anyways, we have, here someone says, 152,000 votes if 2.8% weren't legit. That's a lot of votes, folks. But I'll let him explain it in his own words for you.
Hi, my name is Matt Brainerd. I'm the former director of data and strategy for President Trump's campaign in 1996. And I've been working in this field going all the way back to 1996 when I first started at the Republican National Committee in the Political Analysis Department. I've also worked in this field for the nation's premier election administration and redistricting firm, Election Data Service, for about a decade. And I've worked as an independent consultant on campaigns all across the country, everything from president all the way down to town council, with a tremendous amount of experience in the voter data and election administration field. So I wanted to walk through the process that we're using to potentially identify fraudulent votes.
So I'm not going to play this whole thing, but you can see this man has experience. He knows what he's talking about. He's going to figure this out. Now, here are some other things to look at that he has on his Twitter. Go look him up. Go watch the video. It's 24 minutes. I'm not going to spend that much time on it, folks, because I expect you all to learn how to fish for yourself. It says, among those who said they requested absentee ballots and returned it, and the state did not record getting back. So again, we have some percentages. It says, unreturned absentee analysis complete. Those whom the state reported sending absentee but not getting sent back, state did not request an absentee ballot. So that's the state. Did not request a ballot, and then percentage getting back. 44.2%. That's insane, guys. That number is insane. These people didn't request ballots. Now, the numbers aren't that high, but again, if this is over and over again, and this is every single warning about voter fraud through the mail by casting just blanket ballots in, and they said, well, actually, absentee ballots are rather impervious to voter fraud. And they didn't just say absentee ballots. They made all these cases about other, well, they were talking about absentee ballots, even though we were seeing blanket voting. I voted absentee during the primaries unwillingly, because of my wife. They sent them out to us. We had to, we had to request it. My wife did that. I considered it, but I wanted to vote in person. But it wasn't a big deal because it was a primary. And for me, I kind of knew who I was voting for and was pretty confident in West Virginia that they were going to get in anyways, with or without my vote. So in any case, this is just some data. But what I really want you guys to understand here is that I'm just some dude who watches and reads a lot of news And I'm an independent thinker, always have been. I'm not really tied down to ideologies or anything. No, I have certain beliefs, of course, that are deeply held, but I'm just a dude who's sitting in a room, talking into a mic, hitting record, playing around with OBS, pulling up articles, and uploading it to YouTube. And I don't get paid for this. And yet I can uncover things like the video I did earlier this week, or the video I did the other week, I think last week, about, no evidence of voter fraud, the line that they kept repeating. Tell that lie, make it big, right? Keep telling that lie, people will get brainwashed, they'll believe it. I'm just a dude doing this. What are these journalists doing? Well, they're activists, folks. They're not journalists. These outlets are just propaganda outlets. They are just lying to you. They are lying to you for a reason, because they want you to believe in the fear. They make money on fear, right? Who doesn't know? Who hasn't heard the saying? If it bleeds, it leads. Go watch the movie Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal. The guy is a little bit psychopathic, and he decides he's going to go chase down crimes and ambulance crashes and get the gore for the late edition news. And then he gets so psychopathic that he manipulates his boss into sleeping with him, and he starts setting up crimes for himself. Now, I'm not saying that the media is doing that per se, but what I'm saying is that it is a glimpse into this light. When the ends justify the means, that's my show. When the ends justify the means to an individual versus the process of getting there, then all that matters is might makes right. And it doesn't matter if they lie to you. It doesn't matter what they tell you. And they're going to keep doing it, folks. You need to get away from legacy media. Here is Mr. Goebbels again. Propaganda works best when those who are being manipulated are confident they are acting on their own free will. And this is everyone on the left. Trust me. Now, I know that people on the left think that people who support Donald Trump are like this. They're not at all. They are not at all. But what we have done, and I'm not a MAGA guy, I just happen to support the president, but like what we have seen is the total ineptitude of the media and the breakdown and these people being triggered and going crazy. And I tell you, it is amazing. It's awesome. It's awesome. That's what we get excited about. Ask anyone on the right about Trump's bump stock ban by executive order. By the way, completely unconstitutional. No one on the left, nobody on the left will point that out. They'll say he breaks the law all the time. They'll never talk about that. A bunch of hacks is what they are. George Orwell, one of his most famous quotes: "Whoever controls the image and information of the past determines what and how future generations will think. Whomever controls the information and the images of the present determines how those same people will view the past. He who controls the past commands the future. He who commands the future conquers the past." Folks, this is why free speech is so important. And then over here we have Obama being saying that essentially the internet is the biggest single threat. The biggest single threat. When net neutrality comes up again, if there isn't a Biden administration, it will come up for sure. When it comes up again, realize that that is what it is really about. It's not about helping out the little guy. No. No, it's about throttling so that the big companies alone will be able to feed you all the information. The thing that the globalists have going against them right now is the spread of information via the internet. It's why they constantly censor people, and it's why they have to label you if you don't agree with them as a racist, as a bigot, as a homophobe, as whatever it is. And you need to wake up, and you need to wake your neighbors up, and you need to wake your family up, you need to wake your coworkers up, and you need to say no. Enough. Here's some lefties. This is Gore Vidal. I actually happen to like Gore Vidal. He's got a great little book. It's a series of his articles he wrote back in the day called Perpetual War for Perpetual Peace. I don't know. It's from like the 90s. It's one of the earliest things I recall reading of political nature that was in a book form, I would say. It's just a little tiny thing. But it's a really good read because it explains how the United States has been at war forever. Gore Vidal, it was part of the anti-war left. Where has that gone? The left just voted in Joe Biden, Mr. War himself, more or less. I mean, he's just a neo-lib. He's going to go into Syria, my friends. He will go into Syria. I'm not making this up. That's part of their plans. They've had this plan all along. General Clark talked about this. I've played it before. I could pull it up again now. I'm probably not going to, but I'm just saying. Like, this is something that these globalists have been planning. You didn't vote for Joe Biden, folks. If you voted for him, you voted for the Council of Foreign Relations. You voted for the UN. You voted for globalists. Not Joe Biden. That's why they hate Trump. It says the corporate grip on opinion in the United States is one of the wonders of the Western world. No first world country has ever managed to eliminate so entirely from its media all objectivity, much less dissent. And what happened when Fox News came out? The left went insane, and they're still insane about it. And Fox News, guys, the Murdochs, like Rupert Murdoch, I guess Lachlan Murdoch runs it now. The Murdochs, they're just corporatists. They're neocons, guys. They were against Trump from the beginning. Now, I'll tell you, Fox is better than CNN or MSNBC. It absolutely is as far as objectivity. But they're still propagandistic. They're still not going to tell you everything. One of the reasons why people like Tucker Carlson is because he gives it to you straight most of the time. Now, maybe there's some things he hides away, but he does. And, same reason why they hate guys like, say, Ben Shapiro. I'm not a big fan of Ben, but let's say, he's got a pretty big podcast out there. He's got a pretty good reach. And let's say that Ben spreads some good ideas. Well, that makes him evil, right? He's Jewish, but he's a Nazi somehow, right? Yeah, that's how it works. Noam Chomsky, not really a fan of his politics, but I know he is quite a intelligent guy. And it says that the whole world, or the whole point of good propaganda, you want to create a slogan that nobody's going to be against and everyone's going to be for. Nobody knows what it means because it doesn't mean anything. Kind of like BLM. Of course, Black Lives Matter. It doesn't mean anything. Why would it mean something other than you have to bow down to me? No one disagrees. I mean, there that maybe 1% of the population that's like a racist that think that black people should just, go die or whatever. I don't know. I'm not seeing cases of white people hunting down black people in the media, on YouTube or Twitter. I'm not seeing it, folks. What I do see often are black folks attacking white folks, Jews, or whatever. It happens quite often. I've seen stories in the past about, let's say, a black trans woman or lesbian or whatever who was beaten or murdered or something like that. And the left will go, look at all this hate. And they'll try and blame it on white folks. And then when you look up the story and you look who the perpetrators were, or at least you go into the records and see who the perpetrators were, they were black men. They weren't white people. But again, they're painting this narrative. I'm not saying, black people are violent or anything like that. But there is a higher crime rate there. And most people believe, who look into it, that it's because they break down the family. It's as simple as that. It's not an issue going all the way back to slavery. It's the breakdown of the family and having proper values. But the left wants to break down your family. So why would they support that notion? That's why they want to take the kid gloves and put them on and say, "Oh, well, we can't prosecute these people. We just want to do this. We want to do that. We want to leave them be. Just let them do whatever." But that's exactly what BLM means or is about. Is this quote right here? It's exactly what Antifa is about. Oh, we're anti-fascist. We just do a bunch of fascist stuff because we don't know what fascism is. According to them, fascism is capitalism. That's insanity. Fascism was the third way, folks. It was another way. It was this kind of way, but in between socialism and capitalism, sort of. That's why FDR praised it, because we wanted to be more socialistic in this country. FDR made that happen against our Constitution. It doesn't help anybody. We have a bit of a fascist country now. I mean, not because of the police state or any of that stuff. It's because of the way our economic system is organized. The whole mixed economy idea is fascistic. That's how it works. All this racial stuff with fascism, I mean, I've covered this stuff before. That was Hitler, but that wasn't the rest of the fascists. There's not necessarily a racial component to fascism, folks. It is authoritarian, though, and it is very generally close to communism. In fact, they're cousins. Socialism being that little thing in the middle there that divides them. They're all left-wing ideologies, though. You can't say that like capitalism, free markets are not a left-wing ideology. That's always existed. It is within our very nature as beings. That has always existed. We've always traded. Socialism isn't within our very beings as well, as far as our tribal nature. But that should tell you something, too, about how socialism works. Because the tribalistic nature of ourselves, or to take care of our family and our community around us, to share, to basically provide for those people, that keeps outsiders away. Capitalism does not. Capitalism, free markets bring outsiders in. It is the least, or has the least potential for racism inherently. And go read about the communists in all these nations that have tried to implement it and see the racial disparities. See what they do. They chase the Jews out. They kill blacks or whites, and right now in South Africa. And by the way, folks, that's a whole, we can go into the history of that, but the Zulus did not live in the land that the Dutch moved into. That's the history of that. That's the reality. They didn't take any land away. The Dutch did not take any land away from the Zulus, and the Zulus attacked them. And that started the whole apartheid thing and whatever else, and it was tragic and horrible. But what's also interesting is, I talked to a gentleman some years ago in a bar from South Africa, older gentleman, he was about 50. He grew up under apartheid. He could not stand what was going on here in the United States. And it's just, he thought it was so sad. And we're at a bar, a cool little bar up in Frederick, Maryland, I like to go to. And it was, a bunch of young people there. And he couldn't believe how the road we were going down, because he lived it. And I got a lot of Eastern European friends. I actually haven't kept in touch with many of them here recently, but the reality is they grew up in these nations and they see it too. Why don't you? Because you're dumb and naive and you don't read anything, and you're not intended to. And it's not meant to mean anything. Again, as Chomsky says here, anti-fascism. Well, you're not an anti-fascist, folks, if you're a communist. Look at communist China right now. They have that mixed economy thing going on. There's capitalism. There is a very highly centralized government. They're planning, and right now they're re-educating Uyghurs. Look at all the people on the left that say that you belong in a gulag because you don't agree with them. You're going to go to re-education camps. They're talking about making lists right now for people who supported Trump. Keith Olbermann said we had to round these people up and eject them from our society. Who is the fascist? Who is the authoritarian? Who is the one pronouncing evil? I just want to live in peace. I want to be left alone. I don't want my children, my future children, to be told that they're a little girl when they're a boy, or vice versa, or that there is no difference. That's just insanity. It's anti-science, literally. There's nothing in that is free. And they do all of this in the name to make you free by enslaving your mind. It's just absolute insanity. It's Orwellian, right? You're going to find a quote. Malcolm X is the man. I'll tell you, man. Malcolm X has a lot of. It's unfortunate that most people don't study him more because he just has a lot of very profound things to say, and I think had a very interesting life. Even though he didn't do as well, let's say Martin Luther King, what he did for us, but he, as far as integration and healing some racial injustices and all that stuff. But Malcolm X, man, the guy was very, very smart. So it says, if you're not careful, the newspaper will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. And that's just it. Reminds me of this Chomsky quote. It's like Antifa. Who's oppressing who? No, I know that not everyone's necessarily affiliated with BLM who's in the streets, or even necessarily with Antifa. They're just troublemakers. People who are opportunists. Understand how these things work. But you all need to get away from the mainstream media. Now, I don't consider myself a news show, although I do cover current events. From time to time, I think of myself more as a philosophical channel, if you would. But just discussing these things I find interesting. And, you guys need to really get away from that mainstream media. Newsmax is getting bumped up hardcore. But I'm going to show you some channels real quick. Just a few things. Like Tim Pool, this is Timcast. I'll look at some videos. It says Trump drops evidence. Democrats panicking. Trump planning a coup. And this is the media saying this. This is what Tim does. He reads the media, gives you his opinion. He's worked in it for some years. He used to be an on-the-ground guy. A lot of people don't like Tim because he's kind of got tepid opinions. Whatever. I don't care. He provides me a news aggregate. So the Whitmer impeachment, I talked about that the other day briefly. Voter audit uncovers evidence of electoral fraud. It was 4 days ago. And we'll see this over and over again with Tim. That's his one channel. His other channel, he puts out about 5 videos a day, something like that. First 2 videos in the morning are like 20 minutes. The rest of them are about 10. Right here, evidence of systemic voter failure could cut, blah, blah, blah. Tim's been really careful. He always is with his words, calling it impropriety. But, guys, if you have an hour in the day, look at this. Like, just listen to Tim for a little bit and get caught on what's going on about this stuff. Now, he's going to talk about what he wants to. But here's another channel now, right-leaning channel, Liberal Hive Mind. He's got these nice, big big pictures here, very catchy, whatever, but he just talks about the stuff. Detroit will audit every vote. Why is there an audit if there's no impropriety? Right? Let's see. There's Crowder, man. I'm not a huge fan of Crowder, but Crowder's going to cover this. He does a morning show like every morning now. It's free on YouTube. And he's funny. He's entertaining to watch. And he talks about some news. Now, he's got opinions I don't agree with, much like Tim and whomever else. It's not why I watch people. I'm not watching people because I agree with everything that they say. That's stupid. You don't agree with anybody 100% of the time. I watch people like this in order to get information and to get perspective from someone else who has a different perspective from me. Dan Bongino does a really good show, about an hour long every day. Matt Christensen's a friend of mine. We're not besties or anything, but I know the guy, and he does a good job. He does like 2 videos a week, a live show twice a week, and man, like he does a really good job. Another one I didn't pull up here you should check out is Viva Fry if you don't know who that is. Robert Barnes gets on a show every Sunday night, I think on Fridays maybe too, and they do a live show and they talk about all this stuff. Robert Barnes being a constitutional lawyer. This is Mr. Dave Collin from Computing Forever, and man, since the lockdowns, Dave has just been at it with the New World Order stuff, with the World Economic Forum's Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, all this stuff. Excellent content. Go check him out. Get away from legacy media. They are just propaganda outlets. We got Tyler Zed from Zeducation. Little channel right here. It says how the Constitution could declare Trump the winner. Right, because Trump hasn't lost. And, he does his little videos like all of us do. We have Sticks, Sexenhammer. He look, dude's sitting in a robe. This is what he does. He just chills. He's just chilling. So, in a robe, giving his opinion. Awesome. And he's good. He makes good content. He's right quite often. So I just kind of wanted to talk about this because just seeing that pop up today, just insane. And this push, guys, from the media to get Biden in should be suspicious. Should be very suspicious to you. So that's about all I have. If you guys want to, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You want to watch a live show, go over here. The Ends Justify the Memes. It's on DLive every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. live. Ends_justify_memes. It's a live show with a co-host and producer. We just talk about whatever we want to talk about. We want to grow the show. We've picked up a little bit of followers here recently. We're probably going to start going live stream on YouTube. Right now we have replays over there. So go subscribe to that. If you're subscribed to me, go over to the Ends Justify the Memes, subscribe to that. And, if we get some enough live viewers, we'll start doing call-ins and stuff like that. We've talked about it. Also, if you want to support me and my family at all, please go over to Subscribestar, small monthly donation. I don't have any tiers, whenever. But if you want to do that, that's much appreciated. If not, I'm going to make this content regardless. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, that's really all I had. I'm just so sick and tired of seeing just news article after news article after news article by people with agendas, more or less Democrats or progressives or whatever, just trying to gaslight people and putting out so much propaganda. It's absolutely insane. So, hey, that's about it. This has been AllMinucOne, and I wish you all well.